on Thomas Hobbes Leviathan. Hobbes, 1588 to 1679. A work of political philosophy first published in 1651. The principal ideas of which are: a man or a woman, I have to keep this up to date, a man or a woman is a group of material particles in motion. The state, which is the great Leviathan, is an artificial man in which sovereignty is the soul, offices the joints, rewards and punishments the nerves, wealth its strength, safety its business. I wish our modern politicians would take note of that. Safety of their citizens. Counsellors in memory. No. Counsellors, its memory. Equity and law, its reason and will. Peace, its health. Sedition, its sickness. And civil war, its death. Reasoning is the manipulation of names. Truth is the correct ordering of names. Desire is motion toward an object, and diversion is motion away. The good and bad are understood by reference to desire and diversion. In a state of nature there is a war of every man against every man. To secure peace, men make contracts establishing a sovereign power who is not subject to civil law, since by his will he creates law. Of the three forms of sovereignty, monarchy, aristocracy and democracy, monarchy is the most effective in securing peace. The Leviathan, or to give its full title, Leviathan, or the matter, form and power of a commonwealth, ecclesiastical and civil, is primarily a treatise on the philosophy of politics. It also contains important discussions, some brief, some extended, on metaphysics, epistemology, psychology, language, ethics, and religion. Hobbes develops his view from a metaphysics of materialism and a mechanical analogy in which everything is a particle or set of particles moving in accordance with laws. Though he was at one time secretary to Francis Bacon, English philosopher and essayist, his inspiration came from Galileo Galilei, Italian mathematician and physicist. Hobbes was unusual in being an early empiricist who recognized the importance of mathematics. In the Leviathan, the realism of Niccolò Machiavelli, Florentine man of affairs and political writer, the emphasis on sovereignty of Jean Baudin, French legalist and politician, and the attempt of Hugo Grotius, Dutch jurist, to modernize the conception of natural law by relating it to mathematics and the new science, are combined and developed with great originality, clarity and flair for pungent statement to constitute one of the masterpieces of political philosophy. Hobbes divides all knowledge into two classes: natural philosophy and civil philosophy. The former is the basis for the latter and consists in turn of two parts. First, philosophy, comprising laws and particles in general, such as inertia, causation, and identity. And the other is physics, which deals with the qualities of particles. These particles, singly or in combination, may be permanent or transient, celestial or terrestrial, with or without sense, with or without speech. A man is a group of particles that is permanent, terrestrial, sensible, and loquacious. Physics contains not only optics and music, which are the sciences of vision and hearing in general, but also ethics, which is the science of the passions of men, poetry, rhetoric, logic, and equity. The four last are respectively the study of man's use of speech in elevated expression, in persuading, reasoning, and contractship. Civil philosophy deals with the rights and duties of the sovereign or of subjects. Hobbes makes extensive use of the mechanical model in constructing his system. Life is motion. Therefore, machines have artificial life. The heart is a spring, the nerves are strings, the joints are wheels giving motion to the whole body. The Commonwealth is an artificial man in which sovereignty is the soul, offices are the joints, rewards and punishments are the nerves, wealth is the strength, safety is its business, counsellors are its memory, equity and law are reason and will. Peace is its health, sedition is its weakness, civil war is its death. The covenants by which it comes into being are the counterpart of the fiat of creation. It is apparent that the model is highly oversimplified. This is, in fact, the basis for much of the force it carries. Hobbes does not hesitate to ignore the model of ill-suited Hobbes does not hesitate to ignore the model if ill-suited to his purpose, as it is in many cases where he has to deal with the details of psychology, religion, and social and political relations. The simplest motion in human bodies is sensation, caused by the impact of some particle upon a sense organ. When sensation caused by the impact of some particle upon a sense organ. I'll go through that again. The simplest motion in human bodies is sensation caused by the impact of some particle upon a sense organ. When sensations are slowed by the interference of others, they become imagination or memory. Imagination in sleep is dreaming. Imagination raised by words is understanding, and is common to man and beasts. Ideas, or phantasms as Hobbes calls them, proceed in accordance with laws of association or of self-interest, as in calculating the means to a desired end. Anything we imagine or think is finite. Any apparent conception of something infinite is only an awareness of an inability to imagine a bound. The name of God, for example, is used that we may honour him not that we may conceive of him. Hobbes considered speech the most noble of all inventions. It distinguishes man from beast. It consists in the motion of names and their connections. It is a necessary condition of society, contract, commonwealth and peace. It is essential to acquiring art, to counselling and instruction, and to expressing purpose. It is correspondingly abused in ambiguity, metaphor, and deception. So poets are language abusers then, are they? I'm something of a poetry lover myself. I shall be uploading some of my poetry readings as best I can. See my last post. Anyway, to continue. When a man, or woman, because I do rather like woman poetry, something different about it, you know. When a man, I need to keep focused here. Hobbes would not approve. When a man or woman manipulates names in accordance with the laws of truth, as there's more of one of them, definition and thought, he or she is reasoning. Truth is the correct ordering of names, for example, connecting by affirmation two names that signify the same thing. Error in general statements is self-contradiction. Definition is stating what names signify. Inconsistent names, such as incorporeal substance, signify nothing and are mere sounds. The laws of thought are the laws of mathematics, exemplified best in geography. I don't know where that came from. Exemplified best in geometry. Well, they both have geo, to do with the earth. Geometry generalized to apply to all names. Reasoning is carried on properly when we begin with definition and move from one consequence to the next. Reasoning is therefore a kind of calculating with names. According to Hobbes, everything named is particular, but a general name can be imposed on it. A general name can be imposed on a number of things that are similar. He anticipated fundamental distinctions of Hume, that's David Hume, Scottish philosopher and skeptic, and later empiricists, in maintaining that conclusions reached by reasoning are always conditional. Hobbes extended the mechanical model in his discussion of the passions by holding that endeavour begins in the motions of imagination. Desire, which is the same as love, is motion toward an object, which is therefore called good. Aversion, which is the same as hate, is motion away from an object, which is therefore called bad. Other passions are definable in terms of these two. Fear is aversion. Fear is aversion with the belief that the object will hurt. Courage is aversion with the hope of avoiding hurt. Anger is sudden courage. Religion, a particular important passion, is publicly allowed. Fear of invisible powers. I like that. Religion is publicly allowed. fear of invisible powers. When the fear is not publicly allowed, it is superstition. Now there's a good distinction. Yes. The whole sum of desires and aversions, and therefore modifications, carried on the whole sum of desires and aversions and their modifications carried on until the thing in question is either done or considered impossible, is deliberation. In deliberation, the last appetite or aversion, immediately preceding action, is will. In searching for truth, the last opinion is judgment. I'm boring myself here. No, I'm just tired. Where was I? Since desires are endless, happiness is not a static condition, but a process of satisfying desires. All motivation is egoistic. Man's basic desire is for power, which, like all other desires, ends only in death. Hobbes completes the foundations for the development of his political theory with an analysis of religion. It is invented by men because of their belief in spirits, their ignorance of causes, and their devotion to what they fear. This explains why the first legislators among the Gentiles always claimed that their precepts came from God or some other spirit, and how priests have been able to use religion for selfish purposes. Religion dissolves when its founders or leaders are thought to lack wisdom, sincerity, or love. Hobbes develops his political theory proper in terms of the time-honored concepts of equality, the state of nature, natural law, natural rights, contract, sovereignty, and justice. In his hands, however, they receive treatment that is very different from his predecessors, the Greeks, St. Thomas Aquinas, Jean Baudin, and Hugo Grotius, as well as from his successors, John Locke, philosopher, and his followers in the liberal tradition. Machiavelli's views on religion and the need for absolute power in the sovereign anticipated Hobbes, but were not worked out in detail as a general political philosophy. In their natural state, according to Hobbes, men are approximately equal in strength, mental capacity, and experience, and everyone has an equal right to everything. If they were without government, their conflict arising from their desires, their distrust and ambition would lead to a state of war of every man against every man. In it there would be no property, no justice or injustice, and life would be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Sounds like a description of Harvey Keitel. Anyway, I think Hobbes didn't really have a very high opinion of humour. I can't remember his exact words anyway, I shall look it up later. Fortunately, both passion, in the form of fear and death, desire for a long and reasonably pleasant life, and hopes of achieving it, and reason in the form of knowledge of the articles of peace in the form of laws of nature, all these combine to provide a basis for the establishment of civil society and escape from universal strife. The first law of nature is to seek the peace and follow it. The second necessary means to the first is that, and I quote, that a man be willing, when others are so too, as far forth as for peace and defence of himself, he shall think it necessary to lay down this natural right to all things, and be contented with so much liberty against other men as he would allow other men against himself. End quote. This is to be done by making contracts with others. A necessary condition for the operation of the second law of nature is that they perform their contracts, which is the third law of nature. For contracts to be valid, it is necessary in turn that a sovereign power be established who will make it more painful to commit injustice, which is the breaking of a contract, than to live justly, which is the keeping of contracts. Contracts without the sword, Hobbes reminds us, are only words which guarantee no security. The first three laws of nature, then, combined with the nature of man as a complex set of particles moving in accordance with various sets of laws, not only strictly mechanical laws, but also what might be called egoistic and hedonistic laws, are the source of society, sovereignty, and justice. I will end there for now and continue and end in part 2. See you later.